There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac, welcome back to my channel. I'm not doing a Friday Reads this week. I haven't finished enough. I just can spend the day reading on Friday. I've decided that when I haven't finished very much and haven't started very much and don't have much to say, y'all complain when my video's only 8 minutes long. I'm just going to skip that week. So in lieu of that, here is a Tipsy Tag. This is the self-aware reader tag. Are you laughing already? Think they'll let me do it? Maybe I need to create the blissfully unaware book tag. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to try it. This was created by Courtney Ferreter. And I'm not sure if she tagged me, I must admit. But I was tagged anyway, so maybe double tagged by Kim of Middle of the Book March. And I just watched her video today. And it was delightful. I'll put a link to the original tag and Kim's tag in the show notes. And let's get started. So this is in lieu of my Friday read. Number 1. What most draws you into a novel or story and makes you want to keep reading? Plot, characters, writing style, atmosphere, something else? Writing style and characters. It's rare that the plot will turn me off. If there are well-developed characters and I like the writing, I don't care as much about plot. Atmosphere, I don't know. I mean, the atmosphere is set by how the setting is described and how the characters move through that setting, so no, I wouldn't tend to focus on that especially. But regular viewers of my channel, you have heard me ad infinitum say that I need my characters to leap off the page or at least sit up. If they don't at least sit up, it's usually a bail, because I need vividly drawn characters. And if the writing is terrible, then I still might bail. So those are the two things that mean the most to me. Number 2, what is a convention or trope that will immediately turn you off in your reading experience with a novel or story? My protestation at how everybody uses the word trope is itself getting old, so I won't repeat it here, so I'm just going to ignore that word. I'm just going to talk about maybe cliches or whatnot that would turn me off. And I am doing this with no preparation, people, so I'll just go with one thing that turns me off, which is that the opening sentence or opening paragraph or opening page describes some kind of tragedy which is befalling characters that I have not met or been made to care about at all. I hate that. That is an automatic bail. I remember a South African novel, I believe it was South African, maybe I think it was a Zimbabwean writer living in South Africa, and her novel opened with her protagonist screaming at the top of her lungs that her teenage son had committed suicide. That was the first line of the book, and it was like, you got to at least buy me a drink before I'm gonna care. I'm sorry. No. That just doesn't work for me. So depicting tragedies before I've had a chance to decide whether I give a crap about anybody in the book would be a pet peeve. Is that a convention? I'm not sure. We'll just go with that. 3. What most appeals to you when reading nonfiction and makes you want to keep reading? Well, I'm not a big reader of nonfiction, although I sure enjoy it when I do focus on it, as in this month being Nonfiction November. I'm having a great time. But so what appeals to me? There is an often elusive balance between overly academic and more kind of accessible, popularized writing, and I don't want it to be too much one way or too much the other. I am reading a book that Hannah of Hannah's Books, Hannah Joyner, co-authored with another writer named Susan Birch, called Unspeakable. Here it is. I'm buddy reading that with a bunch of booktubers, and it hits the sweet spot between those two. It has academic research in it. It's very accessible, easy to read. It's just mwah. I think that's all I have to say for this one, because I know that the reverse question about the things that I don't like is coming soon in this list. What is a convention or trope in nonfiction that will turn you off in your reading experience? So I can't stand when nonfiction writers ham-handedly use novelization techniques. So the one that Kim talked about in her video today was a booktube darling and a very popular work of nonfiction, Killers of the Flower Moon by David Gran, and I bailed on that one really angry with the way novelization techniques were used. Like, he wrote about characters coming out of their house and describing the color of the garments they wore that day, and it's just like, no, no, no. I cannot stand that. So I bailed. And the story itself was very interesting, but the details that were included in the book reviews that I watched or read were enough for me. Thank you very much. I'm just watching comments flash across my screen by Doris of Aldi Books. It's very distracting, Doris. Doris the Distractor. I'm not a big memoir reader, and I have been turned off some very popular memoirs because they quoted trendy, post-structuralist, feminist, racial, but really academically, densely theoretical texts instead of just telling their story. What is that book called? It was the memoir which, if she had just left all that crap out, would have been powerful, about her being pregnant for the first time and her partner undergoing, is there a better verb? Undergoing male to female surgery at the same time. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. And I couldn't stand how much, and it just got worse as the book went on. First it was like 3-line quotes, and by the end it was 17-line quotes from like Judith Butler or Eve Kosofsky-Sedgwick. I don't think those theorists are stupid or shouldn't be read, but boy, she diluted the power of her memoir by including so much of that. I mean, it can inform how you tell your story, but tell your story. I think that's enough. Getting all worked up here. 5. Would you say you read more for pleasure and enjoyment, or more to learn and exercise your brain? Well, I hate genre fiction, and I usually don't like commercial fiction, and the idea of a beach read makes me want to woof my cookies, so you be the judge. 6. Which type of books are you likely to rate more highly and enjoy more overall? Brain candy, pleasure, enjoyment, or brain protein, learning, exercise? So, let me kind of modulate what I just said, because my idea of light reading is to read women's fiction from the 1930s or 1940s or 1950s, much of which is being reprinted by the furrowed middlebrow imprint of Dean Street Press. Now, it's hit and miss. Some of it I don't like. I've bailed on several of their titles, but the ones by Ursula Orange and others that I've read, I've really, really liked or loved. And I don't think it's literary fiction. It's kind of women's fiction. It's commercial fiction of its day. But I love it. And I sink into it so deeply that it makes me question what is that dividing line between middlebrow and highbrow. Like, anything that's considered middlebrow that's contemporary, usually I can't stand it. Like, what is that idiot that wrote the most lucratively best-selling novel of all time in our lifetimes, set at the Louvre? What the hell was that? The Da Vinci Code? Oh my god! Like, that's a crime against literature. And I read it for a book group, and it was an all-time low in a lifetime of reading. So, yeah, spare me. Oh, Doris, you're just tormenting me with your LOL symbols. Torment away, Doris. I don't know if I answered the question, but let's just move on, shall we? This is the Tipsy Tag. 7. Do you have a sense early on of whether or not the book you're reading will be a 5-star read or a book you will really like? Has a book ever surprised you in this regard? Now, that's a fascinating question. That's probably the reason I wanted to do the tag, because this question is deep, Courtney. This is a deep question. And my answer will be correspondingly very superficial, perhaps, but I have a reputation for ranting about books that I hate, and I have a reputation for bailing, and I don't know if I have a reputation, but people that spend enough time with me and on my channel know that I can be equally exuberant in loving a novel. But when it comes to first impressions, it's extremely rare that I will be turned off early. And if I am, I listen to myself and I bail early. I do a besties and worsties at the end of each year or the early part of the following year. And one of the awards that I give out is for the most extreme bail, which could be like bailing at the 93% mark or bailing on page 1. So I have done both. But what I think only a few people understand about me is that I do approach each book that I start reading wide-eyed and innocent. You're laughing, and the fact that you're laughing is making me laugh, but I'm trying to make a serious point here, people. I approach every book wide-eyed and innocent, expecting to be wowed, expecting to love it. And when it actually happens and I am wowed, I'm delighted. Right? So I'm always rooting for the book, for the author, to wow me. And crushingly disappointed and pissed off when I'm not. But I do approach each and every book that I begin expecting to be blown away by it. That wide-eyedness can be spiritually evolved, or it can be naive. And I'm not going to claim much of the spiritual side, but I can be overly naive, and I am often seduced by opening lines, opening pages, opening paragraphs, which is why the page 112 tag, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link to one of my videos about the page 112 tag, has been such a great corrective, because I am overly impressed and easy to impress with opening lines, opening pages, opening chapters. I don't trust my sense early in a book, and I think my regular subscribers have learned not to trust my initial impressions of a book, because the farther I get into a book, the more that my actual sense of whether I like it or not will clarify. And at first, it might be a cute author photo on the back, or it might be an interesting turn of phrase that will make me think it's going to be a 5-star read, and it often doesn't. So no, I don't believe in first impressions. Number 8. Considering books that you've rated 5 stars in the past, do you think you would feel the same way about them now? Why or why not? No, I don't think so, and I think about this a lot, and I've talked about it a fair amount on my channel. Some of the books that I consider to be my top reads, I'm not sure that I will ever reread them, because I don't want to know. And my experience at the time that I read it was so profound that I don't want to screw around with it. I just want to leave it and just remember that book and how much I loved it at that time. But there are other books that I read, and I'm not going to regurgitate what I've said in a few recent videos about Jane Eyre, but Jane Eyre is one example where I was reading it and kind of not as in touch with my own inmost response to the book, but just kind of, oh, everybody loves this book and I'm sure I will too, and then I gave it 5 stars, and it's kind of bugged me ever since I read Jane Eyre 5 years ago, and I've talked about that a few times recently. I'm not going to say any more than that, but there's lots of books like that for various reasons that don't age well in my memory, where I don't reread it, but my relationship, my thoughts and feelings about the book change over time, the more distance I have. And that's why I hope that I eventually start doing more rereading. Not of books that I loved, not my favorite books. Those are on a special shelf in my heart, and I don't want to reread them. But books that I'm not sure how I felt about, or where maybe I thought maybe I was just having a bad day that day when I bailed, or maybe I was just overly influenced by Doris of all the books and inflated my star rating. Things like that. Yeah, I'd like to reread more. So that is the blissfully unaware. Oh no, that's the one I'm going to create. That is the self-aware reader tag. Thanks, Courtney, and thanks, Kim, for tagging me. And I'm going to tag some people. Doris, who's been tormenting me with lovely comments while I've been recording this video. You're tagged. And I'm not sure if she's done it already. Ros of Scallydandling about the books. You are tagged. Brian of Bookish, you were tagged. Jen the Librarian, you are tagged. Ben of Doomantidote, a new to me channel I've just discovered in the last couple of weeks, and I am just gaga over that channel. Oh, Lil of Lil's Vintage World, and anybody else who wants to do it. Thanks for watching.